Hello, everybody. Welcome to our self-care and mental health break with Rose Dynasty and our wonderful friends. Hope everybody is doing well. As we get started, please feel free to share this. Share this with any of your friends, any of the groups that you may know. We would love to get the word out. I'm going to go ahead and bring my weekly friends on really quick with us, Miss Patty and Lindsey. So
hey,
welcome. Hi, ladies. How are y'all?
Good. How are you?
Wonderful. You're sharing away, aren't you? I caught you. Share. I know my face would my phone wasn't like cooperating, and I'm like trying to share as much as I can. I'm so glad that y'all are with us as always. Of course, our weekly chit chat, and I love it. We do have a special guest that I think we'll just go ahead and bring on, and we'll just get things kicking. How do y'all feel about that?
Absolutely.
Let's do it. So let's welcome ERICK. ERICK from Crew Health. How are you doing, ERICK?
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Crew Health office.
Oh, did Jason freeze?
I think Jason froze.
Yes.
I think. Are we back?
There we go. Jason's back.
There he is.
What happened?
I don't know, Jason. I got scared.
It was a great on my end. It was great, ERICK. You were like, let's try that again. Welcome, ERICK. How you doing?
Hi, everyone.
Awesome. So, ERICK, you are with Crew Health. Can you tell us a little bit about what Crew Health is and who you are, and give us a little backstory?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is ERICK SUAREZ. I'm the nurse practitioner at Crew Health. We do a lot of LGBT care, and I think the simplest way to describe LGBT care specifically is if you were to put a rainbow flag in a blender with maybe primary care and some infectious disease prevention or health prevention, and just put it in a blender all together, and it makes a beautiful rainbow smoothie, and that is LGBT care.
Very good. Very good. And you guys are located where?
We are on South John Young Parkway, right off of the 528 in Orlando, Florida. We're probably maybe like 5 minutes away from Orlando International Airport.
Perfect. And then you have all these amazing letters behind your name. And I know some of them. So you don't have to go into great detail of that if you don't want to. So what do you do? What is your title?
So my title is I'm a family nurse practitioner, right? I'm board certified, and I also have the other letters. If you notice the HIV there, that's what allows me to take care of patients with infectious diseases such as hepatitis C and HIV, and manage those for those patients.
Perfect. And you all have been open now in that location, what, 2 years?
Yeah, we're approaching 2 years.
2 years. Awesome. And you guys have been amazing partners with us already here at Rose Dynasty. We're appreciative of everything you did. You sponsored our pageant. You have done so much. I mean, you guys are family to us now, and we appreciate everything you're doing in the community. And Lindsey and Patty and I've been doing this talk now for 100 million weeks, as it seems. And it's okay because it's amazing, because we've definitely been able to talk to a lot of people and just kind of get the word out about mental health and the importance of it. If you don't mind, can you kind of elaborate a little bit about what you guys have been experiencing at the office, maybe with mental health?
Yeah, absolutely. So mental health is something that affects all of us. And unfortunately for some of our healthcare providers, one of the things that we run into is that we're on the go, and we're always trying to take care of as many people as possible. And I'm sure probably Patty and Lindsey also run into this, where they're so preoccupied with taking care of the people that they see that sometimes maybe we even forget about our own mental health. And that's something that all people need to kind of be in check with. Funny enough, this actually reminds me of one of my professors. This old-timey professor is like, if you're not checking with yourself up there, then be careful, someone else will.
And that's where we come into play.
There you go, Patty.
Yeah.
Right. I get yelled at all the time for not having self-care and taking care of myself. Patty was scolding me before I got on the on the live. So it's important. I mean, I'm not necessarily a medical provider or a healthcare provider, but I do provide a service and mentorship in what we do. So it is important. And I know in this time, because so many people are scared, so many people are, our lives are just turned upside down, and we've been talking about this for weeks. This grief and this transitional process that we're all going through. It is important to take time for that. Patty,
There's a key important piece there, Mama, that I think we're missing, though.
yes,
Is that, yes, we're in a transitional moment. Yes, there's grief, but we have a superpower. All of us are endowed with this amazing superpower, and that is to be human. So humans have this unique trait that we all have the ability to evolve and expand and grow and kind of become better versions of ourselves. We understand what our environment is doing, what's going on around us, and that we're able to change and accommodate for our success. So let's use our superpowers.
I love that. I never thought about it as a superpower. I mean, I'm a human. That's great. But I think that's important too, because we've all experienced that. We've discovered things about ourselves, good and bad, great things that we can take care of and fix, along with discovering new talents, new desires. So I talked about this last night on another broadcast, is, it's almost like a blessing in disguise. Not that death and grief is, but like what are we using this for? What are we going to take this time and use it for? And I think that's great. I do want to give a shout out. Hey, Jennifer. Hey, Scott, everyone that's joining us. We're going to be talking. If you all want to just throw some comments, questions in here, we will get to you. I would love if you have any questions for mental health, if you have any questions for crew health, let's definitely do that. Lindsey, Patty, what do you guys have to say to add to that?
I think, Eric hit a good topic in the fact that we have brought up about getting used to the new normal and finding adaptations for things within our life. If you look at things of only that negative perspective, you can't ever get out of that ick that I've talked about and that slump. So, finding that, and I know even when I'm working with clients or even with friends and family, as cliche as it sounds, is I bring up Dumbledore's quote about even the darkness, there's a light, but we have to find that. I share my experience of being a mental health first aid responder and coping with some of the big things that have happened in Florida over the last couple of years. And, we can choose to remain in that, or I can say, what, through that experience, I got to meet a miniature pony with unicorn wings on. I got to meet counselors from all around the world. And I mean, literally all around the world, not just around the US, that I still talk to, and we, bicker and we push ideas through. So like you were saying, it's a blessing in disguise. But if we can't see it that way, sometimes we need help. We need someone to pull us out. If anybody's seen Princess Bride, I often use the analogy of when, tear moment, when the horse gets stuck in the tar pit. Sometimes we need that help to get pulled out. And, that could be through a counselor, that could be through a friend, through a mentor, through a group. I often recommend to a lot of my youth, Rose Dynasty, hey, get involved, play a game, watch a movie. Don't feel like I can't see anybody, so therefore there's nothing to look forward to, because there is if you find it.
Exactly. I think, go ahead, Lindsey, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I don't have anything.
I don't have anything. But I think, we wouldn't have been together. This has helped bring us, Lindsey, and all that. So I think it's important. And even Jennifer's here with us every week. And I love it. She's like, you've been my weekly self-help. Going to miss this when y'all are done. I'm not ending anytime soon. So
I was about to say, Jennifer, remember what I just mentioned a second ago? It's all about evolving. We're doing it here right now. Tomorrow, we might be doing it in the park together.
Yeah,
just roll with the punches as time goes on.
Exactly. And I think it's, I love the fact that we are, whether it's 1, whether it's 500 people that are getting from this. And, we're going to do this until we don't do it anymore. And then, like you said, we'll evolve into something else. Who knows what's going to happen in the next 6 months, and amazing things. So, there's those things about that. Lindsey or
vaccine. Sorry. Sorry. I had a cough there.
Oh,
I love it. Do y'all have any questions for Eric?
I would just say, I guess kind of sticking on a lot of the topic about what you do is, I know you kind of explained the whole blender thing, but for those who may not really get, what LGBT care is, speak more on that, as well as, maybe what you are seeing as far as people's mental health and, ways in which maybe we could help guide them if they see this, or other people who are struggling out there.
Yeah, so the people actually so one of the things that we do take care of here is also mental health. We manage medications, but it's interesting because one of the things that we've noticed is that medications only go so far, right? They're assistive, they're not the whole picture. So part of the problem there is that I can help you with the medications to make this a little bit more pleasant for you. But in reality, I need you to do the other side of this coin. I need you to paint things. I need you to get outside and walk your dog, walk with your neighbor, have a coffee with your neighbor that you've never spoken to in your entire life, wash everyone's car in the neighborhood. But you cannot, and this is one of the, give you one example. One example is a patient of ours that has Bipolar 2. So Bipolar 2 is kind of this depressive ebb and flow and fluctuation in mood, but it tends to be more depressed type. She is a very successful young woman, but she ties her self-worth and value to the work that she does. And now we're not working anymore. So in her mind, she's starting to have these negative thoughts. I'm worth nothing. I'm like, well, no, that's not true. You're not worth nothing. You're worth a whole bunch. We just got to change right now. And that is perfectly fine. And how do we make that change? And then, like I said, I can adjust with medications on my end, but I can't hold your hand while you walk down around your block or talk to your neighbors or make changes, positive changes in your community. So
yeah. It's funny that you bring up the languaging and things like that, because that's actually, I spent a long time in a session yesterday really emphasizing how using the words that we use and the language that we use can completely impact our thoughts, which then impact our emotions. I had a client kept using the word awful. I'm an awful friend. I'm an awful this. I'm an awful this. And I'm like, how is that even possible? Like, I know you so not as an awful anything. Can you explain to me what is your definition of awful? And her definition of awful was really less than what I would define as awful. I use the example with her of like, to me, if I'm being an awful friend, that would be like my best friend saying, hey, my mom's in the hospital. I need you to get here right now. I need you. And me being like, yeah, no, I don't feel like it. No, I don't think so. Like, that would be an awful friend. And so really reframing the language that we're using can change things so much.
So here's an interesting thing. I send patients oftentimes, especially my favorite patients to send to mental health counselors and therapists are oftentimes young patients. And I give them a task and I say, I'm going to send you to this person and I want you to come back to me with something. And that is a language for emotional intelligence, right? I want you to develop vocabularies, right? And it could be simple vocabulary, right? To you specifically, mad, glad, afraid, sad. Like, what are these things? Because it's not just bad is not terrible, right? Things are not always the end of the world. So we need to be very sensitive and careful when we use these words, right? Is it actually the end of the world? Or are we just feeling really bad inside and we're trying to convey those but don't have the words to do it?
Yep. And I would say even piggybacking, because I know I work a lot on that emotional intelligence piece, because most people stick with happy, mad, sad, but there's so many more
we are doing in therapy
layers to that. But another thing I have them focus on is avoiding the definitive words of always, never, everyone, everything. Because the second you start speaking that to yourself, that becomes your reality. If it's, well, everyone hates me. Well, is there someone that doesn't? Well, yeah. Well, then it's not everyone. You don't always feel bad. There are times that you have to feel happy or feel gleeful or, nostalgic or blissful, things of that nature. So avoiding those definitive words and again, kind of reiterating what everyone's saying is the way we talk to ourselves becomes our reality. So be very mindful of how we do that. And I often will tell people that I'm working with, would you say that to your friend? Would you say that to your significant other? Would you say that to your sibling or your parent? Well, no, then don't give permission to do that to yourself.
I want to kind of pull up really quick. Jennifer says people usually describe themselves in bad ways when they continuously hear others use the words toward them. Know it from experience. So that is a common thing that's human nature for us to hear those things. And that's why it's important to surround yourself with people that are going to speak those positive things, that are going to do, that aren't going to tear you down or aren't going to, speak those things over you. I find, coming from a religious background, myself, this is a common thread that is taught in all religions, all mindsets, all everything, that there's power in words. And we want to say that there's not, but there is. There ultimately is. And that's what I'm hearing y'all say. Am I correct? That, there's that power in that, and I know myself when I'm not feeling myself, I have to speak those things. I mean, there comes a point where you can't deny something. If you cut your arm off, you can't sit here all day and say my arm is not cut off, I'm not going to bleed to death, unless you're going to have to go to a doctor. I mean, there comes that point, but finding that balance in your mind of understanding, especially in times that we are right now with stress and anxiety, people, we see it a lot. I don't know if Eric has seen it, but I know I've known people that have rushed to the hospital, and there's been legit, but a lot of it's just been anxiety. And I don't want to say just anxiety, but it's your body reacting to anxiety. How do y'all help people overcome that? If that makes sense, what I'm asking.
Well, first and foremost for me, oftentimes, because this is what happens, and I'm sure maybe Patty and Lindsey see some of this as well. They go to an ER thinking they're having a heart attack, for God forbid, or that the kid is, having a seizure or a stroke or whatever. So they go to the ER. The ER rules out everything physiological and realizes, well, this actually, what is left is the anxiety component here that's not addressed. So then they go to a psychiatric practice, or a practice that, like us at Crew Health, that we treat psychological conditions as well that are related with, the LGBT alphabet soup that we have, right? So, for us, we have to, from a healthcare perspective that prescribes medications, one of the things that I want to address is caution with a simple pill, right? First and foremost, can we address things without using a pill? Secondly, if we do use a pill, can we use a temporary pill, right? Does it have to, because there's a lot of addictive medications out there. How do we prevent addictions while treating for your anxiety? Because I can very easily give you a prescription that will make you feel like there is no worry in the world. Anxiety will never exist. But there's addiction that comes with it, and that's a problem.
Right.
So there are different ways of managing these things. And in fact, one of my favorite, and I'm just going to drop a medication name, so fair warning. My favorite is Lexapro. I love Lexapro. It's very gentle on the body. It's very gentle for children. It relieves anxiety and depression, mostly anxiety, but depression as well. It saturates in your body in 3 days. So patients oftentimes see a beneficial effect as early as 3 days. So, I mean, as the most forgiving medication psychologically, I would have to say Lexapro, hands down. And it's generic and cheap. I think it's $4 for 90-day supply at Publix. So it's, doesn't get better than that. Yeah.
I'm really glad that you're touching on, and I love what you said, that we want to find the answer if it doesn't take a pill, like when you were saying that. Because Jennifer even mentioned just a minute ago, that's why they stopped going to therapy, because the one they were going to was pushing meds. Yeah. And when they were taking them, it felt like it made it worse. And I'm sure there's lots of reasons that it could have been. It could maybe not the right medication. It could have, and we know that there are people out there that will push things, and I've seen it and experienced it. And it was, one of my fears for therapy and psychiatrists and stuff too, because I had seen that everyone that I know that went to was pushing it. Mm-hmm. It was like, you're going to go on pills. And I love to hear the fact that people say that there can be alternatives. Now, are there people that need medication and pills? Yes. And are there people that need to keep taking them and not stop taking them without doctor's permission? Yes. Please take your pills.
So this is my qualm, is because oftentimes people are like, oh, I don't want to take my medication. I don't want to take a pill. But here's my situation. When it comes to psychological medications, right, I oftentimes relate it to diabetes. It's like, if you had diabetes, wouldn't you take your insulin? So why is this any different? Right? If you have depression, why don't you take your depression medication? They fit together for obvious reasons. So it's I think there's, unfortunately, in our modern world, we do still have some psychological stigmas that exist.
Yeah.
I can only speak for myself, but as a counselor, I take the perspective that I try everything and anything and make sure that the client is also utilizing all of those tools before we go ahead and jump at the medication. But as a clinician, we also have to look at the history. And what I mean by that is, you know, if mom has anxiety, grandma had anxiety, sister has anxiety, 3 cousins have anxiety, we might have a genetic component. And I relate it to, you know, diabetes. I relate it to hypertension, high cholesterol, where, you know, and I share with them, like, I haven't eaten red meat since I was 14. I have high cholesterol. Why? My mom had it. My grandma had it. My great grandma has it. My grandpa has it. So no matter what I eat, it's going to happen. So when you could put those in more of those simplistic kind of terms, and because there's so much stigma around mental health and mental health pills and mental health treatment, you know, that helps remove that stigma, but also lets them know that, hey, sometimes there is a genetic component that we can do all of this work, but you may need to be on that low dose that little bit. And with that, sometimes with the tools, then that anxiety and depression can subside. Does it go away 100%? No, of course not. But, you know, if there is something that is interim, you know, like someone had a family member pass away, you know, it's not something that we're going to, you know, at least I am not going to go send them out for meds for. We're going to work on that trauma in that situation. So it is a case by case. But I do get why people do fear that. There are clinicians, psychiatrists, you know, that do push that. But I can speak for myself as I don't. Most of the people that I would refer to don't, unless it is absolutely necessary, because we don't want anybody taking anything that they don't need.
Exactly.
So let me address Scott Keeley's, I guess, question. The answer is yes. So that's a hard answer, and the answer is yes. Let me explain what happens here at Crew Health, so you have an idea of maybe what you should expect from your psychological healthcare provider, especially if it comes to your child's health, right? So here, I give myself 2 strikes and I'm out, right? I'm going to try to gather as much data from you, from surveys, screening tools, things that have sensitivity and specificity that are used by national psychiatrists, to try to gain as much information to hone in as best as possible what medication and where and how much I should be using and what should I expect. Now, if I use 2 different medications and I strike out both times, which can happen because there's a boatload of them, right? I then move, my third option is then move to a genotype. I want to know your child's specific genetic metabolism for psychotropic medications. So we get a genotype, and the genotype report actually comes up in, actually, hold on a second. Let me get it. I have one here. I have a sample.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I'm glad he's bringing that up, though, because working with kids, that's one of the biggest things that I have parents ask me about is, am I going to have to put my kid through multiple rounds of medication to find out which one works best? So to see that there are tools out now that can help with this is really empowering for parents.
Exactly. So here, basically, this is a sample that is, you know, it says sample patient in the corner, but it has basically, you know, it has green light, yellow light, red light. So this tells you what exactly, based on the metabolism of your child and that human body, what medication does and doesn't work for you. So you can navigate to those that we know that is going to, at least on a human level, be metabolized correctly faster had we continue changing and guessing. It sounds to me, when I hear that there, you know, people are changing medications like that so often, that is an old-timey psychiatrist tactic. If it's not working, move on to the next. And you basically go down their favorites list of what works.
So with that, is that like a blood test? Is that literally like a
oral
swab?
Oral swab? It's sent into the lab that way. Yep.
Very good to know. So you guys would maybe try 1 or 2, like you said, no more than 2, and at that point you would go into a genotype. Well, Scott, crewhealth.org, check them out. Not the plug, but you know, that may be something, or your current pediatrician may not know of this. So that's good. Thank you for asking that. I didn't know that either. That's really awesome to hear that that's something possible.
And there are more and more insurances that cover it, but not all do.
Yeah.
Right.
We're seeing that more and more are covering it. I'm actually, in the past, it was like the maximum charge that GeneSight will ever charge for the full test is $350. But understand that with $350, you have a blueprint to your child's genetic metabolism that apply to all medications. So this is like gold. You have like the template on how their bodies will react. So you can give it to them as they grow up or go to college and be like, here, now you manage this.
So with you all, like if the insurance doesn't cover it, then they would pay whatever the fee would be at that. Okay. That's good information. Jennifer said that my son has had to be on addictive medications, severely hurting himself. It helps, but meds on the opposite effect for me, which is obviously very possible. I remember as a kid that there were medications. I mean, they tried to put me on Ritalin, and I literally became a zombie, and I lost weight, and I got very ill.
Right.
And then there was another one like Paragoric or something that they don't even make anymore that my mom said was a calmer down for kids, and I would go through the roof. So I think it's all like what you're saying with the genetic makeup and what the metabolism is, how it's going to affect it. Crew Health is where we go. Here we go. Crew Health, who we go to for the test.
You can?
Yep. Yes, go to crewhealth.org, give them a call. I think you're going to make an appointment online. Yes, check with them. They're great folks. And especially if you're in the Orlando area, check it out. I know are these friends of yours, Lindsey?
Maybe. Yeah. But the other thing too is I know other psychiatrists are using the genotype test as well. So you can also check with your current psychiatrist, or even correct me if I'm wrong, but even some PCPs are starting to use it.
Bingo. Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Yep. So just ask. You might just need to ask. Yeah.
Awesome.
And if you need to come to us just specifically to get the GeneSight done, that is perfectly fine. We're more than willing to help. You can take that information back with you to whatever healthcare provider you need.
And do you guys take nonverbal teens? Yeah.
Yes.
Because you work with teens are on the autism spectrum, all abilities.
Yeah, for better or worse, I've worked in psychiatric hospital with children. Oh yeah.
Yes, Jennifer. If you have any information, Jennifer, you need information, give me a call or talk. We'll get you connected to them. Absolutely. That's awesome. That's great. I learned something new.
It's nice though that you told us that we can refer to you just for the testing, because that's, like I said, that's one of the things that so many of my parents and adults, I've had that too with some of my, and Patty, you might have too. Some of my adult clients, they've been dealing with medications for 20 years, 30 years, and they never have found the one, or, the one that they've been on for years all of a sudden doesn't seem to be working anymore. And I've known that the testing is available, but to know of a place for sure that in our area we can refer to, and even if it's not covered by insurance, to be able to have that piece of information, that's huge.
So one of the things that we know, and I'm sure it goes without saying in your area for both mental health counselors and therapists, that obviously medications are not the be all end all. There are a lot of people that do end up realizing, hey, I have literally tried the list. There is nothing. I've gone literally A, B, C, D, all the way down to Z and back again. Some of these patients, unfortunately, have even tried some of these medications twice on different occasions at different times in their life. There is a thing called, and I love this because it's a non-pill option that actually works really well, and I've seen it work literal magic. And I don't know if you've heard of transcranial magnetic stimulation. Yep. Yes. TMS is like this little apostrophe, and it goes over the area of the brain the most affected by depression and anxiety. And this is an old technology, so we have plenty of history and data on it. It sends basically magnetic waves to stimulate from the inside out those areas that are depressed or not responding as well. And I have seen people with the worst depressions and long medication lists basically go to 0 medications and actually not be depressed anymore, which is kind of crazy because it's not even a pill. So our traditional mindset of pills is like out the window, basically.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm learning all kinds of stuff. Like,
catch. There is a catch with TMS, and this is the catch. You basically have to go to treatment 1 hour a day, Monday through Friday.
Mhm.
So whose schedule allows Monday through Friday? Yeah, exactly. So that's pretty tough.
is that something that's temporary, or does it tend to be long lasting?
So that's the catch as well. There's also another catch with that. So it can be lifelong, right? But if we never fixed our thought patterns from the get-go, if a therapist didn't help us to make sure that we rewired our thought processes in here, I see the patients returning back to another session of TMS. It may take a matter of 3 to 5 years, but they'll come back to TMS again because it worked. The problem is that they never rewired in here. So that negative thought cycle continues to build all over again.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Jennifer asks, so I'm so excited about this gene testing thing. Why do other doctors not talk about this option?
Okay, so this is actually one of the discussions I had earlier today with our nurse practitioner student. Unfortunately, I don't know if you heard me say it earlier, old-timey doctors, old-timey psychiatrists, they're not necessarily caught up with the times, or they have not continuously evolved with the times to, find the latest and greatest and how you can utilize these tools. Everything's a tool, so how can we use it to improve human life across the board?
It kind of has to do with it, but it doesn't. But it reminds me, I was an educator for cosmetology, and I had people that had been doing hair for 30 years and people that were doing hair for 5, and they would fight and argue and butt heads, and it was just constant because the one who'd been doing it for 30 years still did the hair the way they did 30 years ago, and you can't do it that way anymore. So it kind of, in my mind, reflects the same thing. Is like, if you're been doing something as a doctor or a nurse or anything for 30 years, and things have evolved, things have changed, new techniques, new medications, a lot changed, right? And if you're still doing it the old way, nothing wrong with the old way, but leeches don't cure headaches like we thought they did. And
well, in that case, then there is something wrong with it, because obviously leeches don't cure headaches.
Right. But even I'm saying, but like we have all this stuff tools to our reach now. Why aren't we using that? So, and I know we're not here to, and even Eric's not here to steal clients or anything like that. We want to give you this education. And if your medical professional doesn't offer this and it's something you want to look at, please contact them. Absolutely. And you never know, it may be something you can bring up to them, and they'll research it and realize that it's something that they can utilize as a tool. And
just to clarify though, so my background has always been in nursing and nursing sciences, right? That's why I'm a nurse practitioner. By being on the show today and giving as much information as possible, I'm trying to encourage people to be self-advocates. Yes. Sometimes when your own healthcare provider doesn't know, how can they advocate for you in that way? Maybe you need to bring information to the table. And I see this happening more often than not with our transgender patients, unfortunately, where they need to ask to HRT for a PCP, and the PCP right over their heads. They have no clue what they're talking about or what a transgender person is, and sometimes I find that the transgender person is now having to educate the healthcare provider. And then in psychiatry, I feel like in this particular case, maybe some patients have to educate their current psychiatrist. Hey, maybe I do need a gene site. Maybe I would like to see what my genetic metabolism of these medications are. Am I on something that doesn't work well for me for a particular reason? And we might just need to be good patient self-advocates sometimes.
That is the absolutely perfect way to describe it. Because Jennifer just asked, they go to Shands and she's not sure why they don't. It may be that physician doesn't know about it, or that physician hasn't had the experience. I love that. Let's take responsibility with that and say, hey, next time you go in or next time you talk to them, have you researched this? Do you know about this? I've heard about this. I mean, I know, again, because I can refer to it doing hair, clients will come in and be like, have you heard of this technique? No, but I'll learn it. It's all about educating yourself and learning new things and growing, because again, time and everything is changing. We have a lot more to our grasp than we used to.
And I know I tell clients all the time, I don't care if it's a therapeutical technique. I don't care if it's a surgical thing, if it's medication. That's self-advocacy and doing your research, but making sure the research is on an appropriate site. Wikipedia is not an appropriate site. WebMD. they're always going to say you're dying of cancer. That is just the way that site usually works.
Can we have like a sidebar right now? Why is it that WebMD tells you have cancer for everything?
I don't know. And
I don't know.
It causes a lot of anxiety in people. So I tell them, go to the appropriate web pages, ones that are medical journals, if it's in that specific thing. One that is from, released from a renowned college, things like that. Not a Facebook ad, not, someone on Instagram posted this meme. Those are not ways to educate ourselves. And I know it sounds funny, but these are things that get brought up a lot, especially with my teens. So, go to the valid sites. I provide them sites. Like a couple weeks ago, we talked about EMDR. I never do EMDR with a client as an EMDR clinician until they've done the research and they're okay with it. I'm not gonna be like, well, this is what worked for you. That's not how this works. Everybody is made up so differently. Like I've said it time and time again, not everyone comes in the same little box with the same pretty little bow.
Right.
We're all very different. So yes, do your research, gain the education, ask questions, ask. That is the best way you can self-advocate. Don't just take it as this person's a doctor or this person's a counselor or this person is a hairdresser who's been doing it for 30 years and think that is the only opinion or the fact that's like stamped and sealed. Yeah. Because you also, yourself better than anybody else around you.
So a phrase that we use at Crew Health all the time, and I love to use it, is show me the evidence. Show me, instead of show me the money, show me the evidence. I want to see the evidence. Yep. So it's good that you brought, like, I trans patients educate me every day because things change on that all the time. So I'm like, okay, well, where is the study? Is there a peer review? Did other healthcare people or scientists review this? Yep. So, and in fact, even this actually relates to our current situation with COVID. So there's a lot of things that are being said on CNN, Fox News, and every other broadcasting station across the country. Am I going to listen to the president or am I going to listen to a scientist in this area that studied all his life on this?
Yep. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So someone who's never done anything with science or someone who has. So we kind of and this goes back to what Patty was saying, is like, let's analyze what our sources are, make sure that we're getting good sourers.
And again, ask the questions. I do have a medical background. I have it in several years. When I became a counselor and when I had children, that went away. But I still have friends that are in the medical community. One of my very good friends from high school is actually an epidemiologist. So I get the basics. I know a lot of that. But if I have a question, I ask. And that's what I'm telling you, be your own advocate. You have to make those decisions because we've talked about this in our past talks about our boundaries and what's in our control and what's not. I've talked about that hula hoop. You control what you do, what you say, how you behave, and how you react. That is your responsibility. But how do we make those decisions? By staying informed, asking the questions, asking for the support, reaching out, and forming your decision-making. Because, again, you're the one that's going to have to live with the consequence of it.
So let's take it a step further, Patty. So let's say that I am the patient here, and we're going to do a little bit of role-playing because I know queer people love role-playing. So let's do that. I think everyone does, actually. Wait a second. That's Mama's watching.
It is actually a therapeutical technique that we use.
Mama's watching.
Introverts do not like role-play. I've learned
that. Okay. So let's say I'm a patient and I just discovered this wonderful information about a medication, right? And I'm curious about it and I bring it to you. And you give me this like, well, I don't know anything about that. I've never heard about it, so it can't be anything good. What does that tell us about the person we're addressing with?
I would say that that's a reflection of them because their behavior and their reaction is not in my control. How I respond to that, if I respond with that same mentality and that same verbiage, I'm not meeting them where I want to be met. And if that were me and that was the response I got from a clinician, a physician, whomever, I would say, you know what, thank you for your time and leave and go find someone that can work with me.
Yeah. Peace out, Girl Scout.
I think that's an important thing to point out too, is that just because you maybe heard from your friend or your mom or your sister or your whoever that this psychiatrist was the best one or this counselor they loved or this doctor they really, really vibed with, again, it's not that way. And healthcare, as much as we don't like to say it, it is a business. Mm-hmm. And you, as the consumer of that product, have the right to find a person who fits your needs, mm-hmm. not because you're forced to go there. And it takes so much time, and it sucks, and I hate it. But once I found my PCP, it was a game changer in how I focused and how I valued her. And I tell her that all the time. Like, I appreciate you so much for taking the time to sit with me and answer my questions, because not all of them do. And that's okay. They have a different philosophy. They have a different way of being with patients.
Right.
As the consumer of that product, you have the right to go and find somebody who does fit your needs.
Like I always say it, I know I'm not going to be everyone's cup of tea.
100%.
You know, and it's nothing okay. I take personal. You know, it could be the way I dress. It could be the way I look. It be I'm a very blunt, open counselor. I don't beat around the bushes. I work with a lot of those on the spectrum, so you got to be blunt. You know,
oh my God. Do you want to hear bluntness? Okay, so check this out. We all know about COVID weight, right? Everyone is kind of gaining a little extra weight because we're at home. We're not as physically active.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
And maybe those Oreos were on sale for like 4 weeks in a row. How did that happen? I don't know. What a miracle. Anyway, so patients have been coming to me is like, I don't know why my blood pressure is so high. I don't know. And literally I was like, okay, I don't know how you want me to tell you this. You're fat. That's what it is. It's like, I mean, so I'll do the blood work. Everything comes back perfect and normal. I was like, you're just fat? We kind of got to take care of it now.
Yeah. And you know, and what I, especially hearing what everybody's saying too, is that may not work for everybody.
Yep.
And exactly. That's okay. And that's okay because that will work for a lot of people. I mean, I know working with people on the spectrum, you've got to be that blunt. To me, now, you know, I would probably choke up and cry for a second and then be like, well, you're right. But and it's the same, I think, within the industry, and not to hold the judgment against them. Mm-hmm. You know, not that maybe that psychiatrist or that therapist or that doctor worked amazing for everybody else, but it's not for me, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. And I think people have a struggle with that's a whole nother discussion itself with people understanding that type of thing. But I think that's good. I think we have to kind of be blunt sometimes and saying, this is what you got.
Granted, that is also chased in with a discussion about like, it's not just you. Obviously, this is something that has affected all of us. Right. At one point, I'm like, oh yeah.
And it freezes right there.
It freezes right there.
Come on, perfect. I get it. Right.
It froze with your belly there. It was great.
I get it too. Oh, perfect.
I'm the only one I think that lost weight during COVID. I swear.
Some people probably did from the anxiety. Yeah, for sure.
I was like, I don't want to.
I've honestly remained the same. I haven't lost or gained nothing.
So let's see. This is great. This is good stuff. Thank you. It's very hard to find a good psychiatrist and counselor because you need both sometimes. What doctors accept gene testing for medication?
That's going to really depend on who you're seeing. Again,
no. Let me clarify that one. If they do not, run for the hills. Run. Just don't even check out of the office for follow-up. Run.
I do agree but again, you know, I know that I can speak for like Volusia County. There are not a lot of, especially youth psychiatrists out here. I usually refer outside the county.
Patty's saying run for the smaller hills, not the big ones.
Yes. So you know, acknowledging that I think is important, and a lot of them that are here have been here a long, long time. That's not to say that they don't accept it, because I'm sure some of them do. But that's again that self-advocacy piece. Ask that questions. Where's your comfort level at? You know, and things like that. And again, I know some people are restricted with their insurances, and that part sucks, but it is a reality that if you still have insurance, you're lucky enough to have insurance right now, you know, that is sometimes often a factor.
Listen, I come from a small town, and certain pediatricians that will not be named, every one of their children were on Ritalin. Mm-hmm. Yeah, every single one. And I was one of them.
That's a red flag right there. That's a total red flag.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking 30 years ago, but still, like, you know, when you hear and see those things, those are definitely red flags. If your doctor, consider that. If they're not willing to expand on other options and other things, it's definitely something. I mean, again, I'm not a medical professional, but common sense is going to tell me, for me, I'm going to think twice about before I, am going to continue to listen to them if they're not willing to look at other options. I mean, for anything. I mean, I think second opinions are great. I mean, am I right? I think those things are, you should definitely consider it. I know Jennifer is really excited about this testing, so I hope that you can do that, because I know with her kids, it would probably, and even for herself, would be a great thing. This has been really good stuff. Are you still good with time, Eric?
Actually, the phones are ringing off the hook here, so
Okay.
I kind of have to get going.
Okay.
Because if not, Marisol behind me will kill me. Like, she'll get her little hoop earring and she'll tie it around my neck and be like, "Get off!"
Oh, she fixes the back of her hair. That was great.
Well,
well, I really thank you. I know
Yes, thanks, Eric.
Thank you so much for joining us. Is there any closing thoughts that you want to kind of put out there?
Oh my God, can I drop a bomb right here just for the girls to talk about?
Sure.
Okay, so this, maybe you won't have enough time. The difference between attention deficit and DMDD. That's a big one right there.
Lindsey's blinking very fast. Abby's shaking her head.
Thanks. Eric,
I'm going to drop that one and run away. Just run away.
You're ridiculous. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Everybody, check out crewhealth.org. Check them out. Follow them on Facebook. Follow them on social media. If you need to get an appointment or whatever, definitely contact them. Eric, I love your face. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you later.
Bye, everyone.
I know enough to know that was a pretty good bomb to drop before we left.
Yeah, this is where I say, go ahead, Lindsey.
Hey, I think it's one of those things of like, do we want to go into that pool, because where's the pug? Let's get the pug.
So we can segue. Jennifer said they tried to put her on Ritalin when a kid, and Dad came home and they flushed it. I remember that. I mean, my parents were going through a divorce at the time. I was 10 years old. I'm like, it is what it is. But it was, again, that's, for me, it's an example of a small town. I mean, do I think that doctor was a bad person? Probably not. That's probably all they knew.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 30 years ago, we've changed a lot 30 years.
And I think that, again, that's the biggest takeaway from this whole conversation, is to advocate for yourself.
Yeah.
It is to, nowadays, when you call and make an appointment, if you know for sure that that's the service, because again, look at healthcare as a product. You're paying for a product. And that's, I have that conversation all the time too, when it comes to education and college. I'm like, we're not back in the day where it was like, oh my God, they accepted me. No, education nowadays, it's a product and you are paying for it. So get what you want out of it. And that's the same thing when it comes to healthcare. And it sucks, I think, with healthcare, because we are I can speak for myself. I get so over it. I get so tired of having to advocate for myself. I get so tired of having to say, no, I know I need this exam and I need this test and this is the medication that works for me. Right. But that's why it took me so long to find a doctor that I really like, because at the end of the day, and I say this to my parents all the time, I might be the expert in my field, but I am not the expert in your life or your kid's life. And I never will be, ever. That's just not going to happen. So you have to educate me as to what it is that you're hoping to get out of this experience.
That's good. That's really good. I like that. Do we want to add anything else? Anything else we want to talk about? I mean, we covered a lot in that just under an hour.
Yes.
I learned a lot.
Yeah. Good. And hopefully everyone watching has learned that, one doctor's not the do-all be-all, or a nurse practitioner or a counselor or a dentist or anybody else. Ask those questions, get a second opinion. Speaking for myself as a clinician, I've been doing this for a few years. But I still don't know everything. That's why, we're required by law to have so many hours of training. I already have more than I need. I'm a and I will name myself because I don't think it's derogatory negative. I am a self-proclaimed nerd. When it comes to psych journals, medical journals, any kind of science, biology, I'm about it. I'm reading. I'm trying to gather what information. Like I knew about TMS because I was actually, when I was a baby counselor, just out of school, someone had asked me about it, and I said, you know what? I haven't heard about that, but let me look into it. And I started reading literature. I started speaking to some doctors that I knew to gain more information. And I became very self-aware probably about a good 5-6 years ago about it. But again, we can learn as much from whom we're around because, even though we're the quote unquote professional, we're still learning. In the med field, when I was in it, we used to joke that it's called practicing medicine.
Yeah.
They continue to practice because things do evolve. New technology comes into play. New medications come into play. Surgical procedures, with counseling, new therapeutical techniques, new understanding of the brain, new like TMS and new medications. We're not doctors, and I'm not always like, oh, make sure you get a prescription for this. But we know that line because as long as we're remaining evolved, we can make those judgments. So, but like Lindsey said, and I've said, yourself better than anybody else. Yeah. So speak up. If I'm a big believer in the gut, if your gut's telling you something's not right or something's off, or you need to get more information before you make that decision, do so.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hi, Albert. Scott says, thank you so much. This has been very helpful. Jennifer said, this was a great week. Even my husband got interested in this week. That's good. I'm glad Albert was watching and got interested. Jennifer said, I'm definitely going to one of y'all. Absolutely. Jennifer, feel free to contact either one of them. And if they're not the right fit, they'll find somebody that's good for you. And I would trust their suggestions 100%. So please feel free to reach out to one or both of them and see, if you're looking for someone. Absolutely. He says, hey, I think today was great. I don't want to drag it out anymore. I just think that we covered a good ground. And then next week, I'm ready for some activities next week.
Yeah. Next week, we're going to color again.
Yay.
Are we talking about the time change?
Oh, thank you. I'm so sorry because I forgot too. So starting next week, we're going to be an hour early. So we're going to be at 12 o'clock instead of 1 o'clock. I thank you, Lindsey, because I forgot. I would have remembered next week and started an hour early and not told anybody. I got too many events. Someone asked me to share another event I'm doing in June. They want me to share it now. I'm like, let me get through this Friday before I share the one that's in June, please. So starting next week, we're going to be at 12 o'clock on Thursdays instead of 1 o'clock. We're moving it back a little bit earlier. So, hopefully everybody can still join us. And if not, as always, it is posted. It'll be posted on YouTube and Facebook after the fact too. So I think YouTube takes about 24 hours for it to be up on it, but
like rewatch it, but it's live right now.
It's live right now, but to rewatch it, I think it waits like 24 hours. It takes a little while. So awesome. Any closing thoughts?
I would say in closing, just a reminder, self-care. I can't say it enough. Make sure you're doing something for yourself every day. I know that it can be frustrating when you have children or you're working and you're trying to still, gather things. But I said, look, there's always time. At least a minimum of 20 minutes. We'd like to see at least an hour, but do something for you. Practice that self-care, and even self-advocacy is a form of self-care. So, for those that have been common, like Jennifer, who are looking at this, that educating yourself and doing that is a form of self-care. It's not just here; it's about the mind and body. So, just want to give that reminder to everybody out there.
Do you have the pug?
Oh yeah, where is he?
You went to get the pug, and then we never saw the pug.
No,
and then
I got distracted because I have the ADHD.
Well, while you're getting little Milo, Friday night, tomorrow night, oh my gosh, 7 o'clock on Rose Dynasty, Facebook and YouTube, we're doing the Teen Talent Night. I want to raise over $1,000 tomorrow for this food bank. I'm so excited. Hi, Milo. Milo, tell them all to tune in and give money. Say tune in, get money.
Tune
Yeah.
in, get money.
Get money. Milo's like, what do you want, woman?
You woke me from my nap. How dare you?
Right. So yeah, so tomorrow I've got 20 teenagers that have submitted talent. It is going to be such a blast. So please tune in and spread the message. I want to raise, I would love to raise $2,000 for It Takes a Village. Apparently $1,000 will feed 118 families for a week. So I would love to feed a few of those. So awesome. Bye, Milo.
So I'm going to go back and take my nap.
Oh my gosh, she's so ridiculous. Do you have any other closing thoughts, Lindsey?
No, just get ready for some coloring and art next week. So come prepared with paper and either markers, crayons, or colored pencils.
Awesome. 12 o'clock. I hear thunder in the distance, so I'm getting off the time. All right. As always, don't ever forget your love, accepted, and wanted. Set your alarms for 7 o'clock tomorrow night and 12 o'clock next Thursday. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye, everybody.
Bye.